Hey, what's up everybody? This is Nightwing2303 from SneakerFiles.com and SneakerFiles.com on court. Today we got another performance review for you, and it is on Kobe 7 signature sneaker with Nike, the Nike Zoom Kobe 7. So without wasting too much time, let's get right into it. So starting off with the bottom of the shoe, we finally have herringbone put back on the Zoom Kobe line. We haven't seen this since the Zoom Kobe 4. This is something that I really liked. This particular model has an XDR outsole, and I don't know if they state that on the US versions, but I got these from airnight.com, and it came with a little XDR tag attached to the shoe. So it's just, for anybody that doesn't know, XDR states that it's extreme durable rubber, or extra durable rubber, and on the tag itself it says so that you can play longer. That does not mean that you can play longer without, pain or being tired and things like that. It just means that the rubber itself is stronger, so you can play longer outdoors. So it'll last longer, not allow you to play longer. So, but basically, the traction itself was fantastic. I thought that it was awesome. Like I said, you have herringbone here on the instep of the shoe on the medial side, and then the rest of the shoe has this triangular pattern as well as on the heel. So this stuff worked very, very well. Really didn't matter what direction you were going in. Clean, easy stops. Surprisingly, on the outside where the outrigger is on the lateral, you stop a little bit too good, and I did end up rolling my ankle in these once, and that's where I got my ankle injury from, was from these shoes. Ankle is still not 100% yet, but it's getting there. But basically, these grip to the floor extremely well, so it didn't matter if it was a dusty floor or a clean floor. The traction itself was perfect. I have no complaints with the traction whatsoever, and like I said, herringbone's back on the Kobe's. Hopefully they continue that later on down the line with the 8s, but basically this setup here worked very well, and I liked it very much. So cushion with the Zoom Kobe 7, everybody knows, as long as you get the Kobe 7 Supremes, you have two options. You have your, this is the Play Fast, and then this is the Play Strong. Play Fast is basically a bottom-loaded Zoom bag. It's a huge Zoom bag, 10 millimeters, and then in the forefoot, you have a top-loaded Zoom bag right here, full length. There's no Met bag, so if you could see the little outline there, that's exactly the shape and the location of the Zoom unit. So that's what that has in the Play Fast. Play Strong is a full-on Cushlon midsole. Personally, I did prefer the Cushlon more. It's just a little bit, well, basically, everybody pretty much knows this by now, but I really have been preferring foam cushions. So the cushion on this from the foam was consistent from heel to toe. Cushlon absorbs quite a bit of impact. It might not last as long as something like an Air Max or a Zoom unit, but for what I need it for, which is just consistent cushion through and through, I really like this setup the most. And then with the Play Fast, I did have quite a bit of pain in the heel and in the in my knees because of the setup that they used here. The bottom-loaded Zoom, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this very well, but basically there's just a little bit of space between the bottom of the Zoom and the rest of the foam base. So when I was striking on the heel, my heel just kind of sunk in a little bit further than I'd like it to, and so just really kind of like stretched out that arch of the foot here. So it was just stretching this out a little bit more because it was flexing a little bit further down than the rest of the shoe. So it just wasn't a consistent or smooth ride for me personally. One thing that I found a huge problem with, I didn't have any issues with this one whatsoever, but with the Play Strong midsole, a lot of people are having blistering right here in the arch area. I pretty much figured out after getting quite a few blisters from it, the area in which it is double stitched, where the two sides meet, and it's then glued on to the lip of the shoe. It pretty much presses into your foot right here when it's encased inside of the shell or shoe, and it just, it dug in. The longer that you play in the cush lawn, the softer it gets. So this is already pretty soft right here, and it would just get softer and softer until it would pretty much fold underneath my foot and start jamming under there. The only way that I was able to fix that was to actually cut off this entire section of the lip. So basically I used an X-Acto knife. I cut it out in the areas that were giving me problems, which were these areas here. And then when I put the midsole back on, this was the smallest spot that was left over, which is right where the double stitching is. And that is the area that was pressing right here into my foot. So basically I cut off that part of the midsole, and I cut off that section of the sleeve. Everything is still intact. There's lots of stitching here, so it's still solid. And when I put the shoe, or the midsole back into the shell or shoe, it didn't affect the fit whatsoever. It didn't affect the playability. The one thing that it did affect is that it did not hurt, and I did not get any more blisters. So that pretty much worked. It was really a pain in the butt, to be honest, dealing with that. I've never had that happen other than maybe an underfoot blister, which is what you typically get from breaking a shoe in. But really, like that was a huge drawback for me, and I really didn't like it. One other thing to note is that the durability of the insoles themselves, they're pretty much glued in there, and these things, they just don't last that long. They're peeling up on all parts of the shoe. This one too, like the entire forefoot area is peeling up. It's an easy fix, but for $180, I really don't want to have to cut away sections of the shoe to make them work. I don't want to have to re-glue the insoles and things like that. So, for $180, the system's a little bit flawed, in my personal opinion, and it was just something that was causing me more harm than it was, benefiting me while on court. So that was pretty much a pretty big bummer. As far as the material and the fit goes, the materials are pretty darn nice. I gotta admit, you have your solid rubber outsole, you have your Phylon shell, and then up here you have a nice and thin flywire base. It's very, very thin, and then on top of that you have this entire, I think it's a silicone coating, basically just looks like a rubber. So, but you have that to protect the material underneath it. And this silicone shell, I mean, this is wicked awesome. It worked a lot better than the polyurethane scales that they had on last year with the Zoom Kobe 6, where they had like that shiny type of finish. So the more that your shoe would get stepped on and things like that, that finish would get rubbed off and your shoe would look kind of dingy and worn out. The rubber coating on this, I mean, these things have been beaten all to crap, and the only areas that you could see is really along the midsoles and these peaks on both shoes where people were getting, I was getting underneath people's feet and they were stepping on them. But other than that, the entire rest of the upper, you can't even see anything, which is great. So this would make a good on and off court shoe. And then the back section here, you have a little bit of leather. It's pretty stiff, but it's for that, keeping your heel in place, and then you have the TPU heel cup as well. So materials I thought were pretty nice. Again, no complaints with the materials. As far as the fit goes, with the two midsole sections, you have two different types of fit. You have your basic fit here with the I don't know what to call this, but it's basically just a portion of a sleeve. And then with the Play Strong, you have your higher cut sleeve. This one here, I think these sit a little bit higher up than these, because when I put on the shoe with the Play Strong, my foot was just a little bit tighter inside of the shoe, a little bit more of a snug fit versus something like this. I didn't feel that the sleeves kept the midfoot section in place as well as a regular tongue would have. When I did roll my ankle, I was wearing the Play Strongs with the top or high cut sleeve, and basically when I moved into this direction, the shoe with the great traction stopped, and then because it's a shell, the rest of my foot kept moving with this flimsy little sleeve here, and I basically rolled my foot inside the shoe. I didn't roll the shoe itself. So typically when you roll, kind of go like that. I did that, but with my foot inside the shoe, so my foot moved with it, and that was a pretty big bummer. You know, I was pretty disappointed when that happened. And then as far as the heel fit goes, you know, it's nicely padded inside, and it's nicely sculpted without the shell in it, or without the midsoles in it. But once I put on the midsole, this section here, the lip, it was thick enough to where it basically covered up that sculpted heel padding. So instead of it contouring around your heel right here like it's supposed to, it basically made your heel lay flat in with the shoe. So my foot kept slipping out of this area. I was told to use a runner's loop and things like that, but in all honesty, I don't feel like you should do certain things, or should have to do certain things with a shoe that is as pricey as something like this. So, you know, I like to play in them stock, see how they work exactly as they are. If there's any modifications that I need to do, I'll let you guys know. But basically the heel lockdown in these was just not that great due to the lip. I was going to cut off the lip here, but I decided not to, just because I wanted to keep going with it. But basically, if I were to cut off this lip here, this rim, all of this area would not be blocking my heel any longer, so my heel would sit inside of the padding, which is sculpted much nicer than with this in front of it. So, you know, there's quite a few issues with these, with the cushions, the fit, and things like that. They are true to size, but you know, I personally just did not feel comfortable in these, especially after rolling my ankle. When I went back to these afterwards, I was very, very hesitant to really do anything. So, because I didn't want to have to roll it again or roll my other ankle and things like that. But, you know, these things, they could be changed with the Kobe 8, but as of right now, this is how they are in the Kobe 7, and I just didn't really like them too much, unfortunately. So as far as breathability and ventilation goes, last year's model had, you know, that 3-layer flywire. You had flywire, and then you had the mesh, and then you had the polyurethane scales, and then the flywire itself was perforated throughout the entire shoe all the way around. These, however, they're not perforated anywhere. There's no perforations whatsoever, so much like the Air Jordan 2012, the only ventilation that you're getting is from the midsection of the shoe, where the tongue is, or the sleeve. So you have this one with some perforations, and then you have this one with perforations as well. It did work out pretty well, so I'm not going to complain too much, but it could have been a little bit better. You know, adding some perforations into the flywire and then putting that plastic or silicone shell over it would have, I think, been a little bit of a better, you know, airflow, would have made for better airflow, but that's pretty much what they gave you, so there's not really any ventilation here except for in this section. So, you know, it was decent, but it wasn't anything great. So as far as support is concerned, you obviously have your heel cup that was countered out by the lip of the Playfast midsole, and then you have your external carbon fiber glass-based shank plate. This worked very well. You had flexibility in the forefoot, and then you had no flexibility in the arch and then the heel, which is right where you need it. So you know, so you were able to move freely in this section, but all of this stuff stayed put with your foot, which was great. And then again, I went over this with a 2012 Air Jordan review, but this is not support, and my ankle was proof of that because I wrecked my ankle pretty bad. So you know, this doesn't offer much of anything. It just kind of hugs your ankle, and that's pretty much it. You know, so that's the support section. You don't get much of it, but you know, the shoe itself is made just like the previous 3, the Kobe 5, 4, 5, and 6. It just didn't play anywhere near as well as either. Alright guys, so that pretty much takes care of the review on the Nike Zoom Kobe 7. Overall, it is not something that I'd recommend personally, just because there are so many problems with it. It's nowhere near as fluid as the first three low top Kobes, the Kobe 4, 5, and 6. It's a little bit clunky. There's way too many problems with the system itself. Anything that you have to modify to the degree that I had to with these really just isn't worth the retail price. These retail at $180, and to have to cut out like half of the midsole section, the lip on there, it just, that's really not worth it for me personally. If you have to do an insole swap or something like that, that's not a big deal, but something where you have to drastically modify it, like literally cutting off sections of the shoe, I think that's just a little, you guys get what I'm getting at. It's just not worth it. I'm pretty disappointed overall with this sneaker. I was really excited, especially after seeing the traction, and they just didn't perform well. So at this point, basically, we just got to kind of move forward and look forward to the Kobe 8, and hopefully that whatever issues were present in this model, that they either do away with altogether or they fix them to a point to where it works a little bit more sound, similar to the Jordan 2011 versus the 2012. Very similar setups, but performance-wise completely different. One is an entire upgrade from the next, so hopefully that's what we can look forward to with the next version of the Zoom Kobe line. And that's pretty much it. I personally wouldn't recommend these. That's just me though. So if you have them and you like them, I think that's awesome. If you have them and you don't like them, which I've heard a lot of people say to me personally, that's, it happens. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all your support. And until next time, guys, have a good one.